Hey guys, welcome to On My Shelf. Today I'm talking about how you can crush the "you're wrong" voice that plagues writers. Lately we've been talking about the voices that hound writers during their writing. We've already talked about 3 voices that writers will likely hear at any stage in their writing career, including the "I can't do this" voice, the "who would even read this" voice, and the "this is terrible" voice. Today I'd like to talk about the "you're wrong" voice. I'm going to break this one down into fiction and nonfiction because I believe it hits writers differently across those mediums. So for fiction writers, the voice is a little ridiculous, right? Because fiction isn't true. So there's not really a way to be wrong, is there? Well, actually, there is. I'm going to talk about this in more depth at a later date. But as fiction writers, we also have a duty to our readers. I might feel a little more strongly about this than other writers because I write for kids. But my duty to my kid readers is this: truth must be included in my fiction. If I decide to write a tale that takes place during World War II, it is my duty to get the facts of that time period straight. If I decide to write a story about an autistic boy, it is my duty to my readers to make sure I write about autism accurately and honestly. If I decide to frame an entire young adult story about mental health issues, I better get it right. So, as you can see, this voice does have something to say to fiction writers. It's just that when the voice stems from fear, we'll have to silence it. Here's how we can do that. Cover all our bases. If you've covered all your bases, you're not going to be wrong. But what are the bases you have to cover? Base 1, do the research. If your story needs any kind of research, do it. Put in the work. I read an article recently about fantasy and how many fantasy books have protagonists who happen to hop on a horse while they're running away from their enemy. And even though they've never ridden a horse before, they can miraculously ride a horse perfectly. This is not actually possible. The article reminded authors that even though they may be writing fantasy or fiction of any kind, they owe it to their readers to get the details around the story correct. So determine what those details are for your story, and put in the time to do the necessary research. Base 2, plan your story well. I know how some feel about the idea of brainstorming, but I also know from much experience that brainstorming helps me tell a more accurate, more linear, more enjoyable story. When our stories have holes or questions, readers lose trust in us. We can fix this by brainstorming well, or even with a partner. Base 3, learn your craft. Never stop learning. You owe it to your readers to continuously improve, and this is an often underrated way to defeat the "you're wrong" voice. It's actually a way to defeat all the voices we've talked about. When we're secure in our writing, the voices cannot sway us, at least not for long. The "you're wrong" voice gets a little louder when we're talking about nonfiction, especially when it comes to essays and articles that are philosophizing or teaching. It's easy to look at our point of view in a particular essay and agree with the voice. It's easy to look at an article in which we're teaching something and wonder if we haven't quite learned all we need to know to be writing something like this. Some ways to beat the voice when writing nonfiction include these. 1. Do your research. That's right. It's the same for nonfiction as it is for fiction. When you're writing an essay about eating disorders, make sure you have the correct information about eating disorders, even if that information never makes it into the essay. Equip yourself to know so that you form your opinion from fact, and then the voice has nothing left to say. Because of, number 2, remember that your point of view is your view from a point. I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's worth repeating. We come from all different backgrounds and childhoods and worldviews, and no one will ever completely agree with another, because no one has ever lived another's exact life. So our ideas, our opinions are not wrong. They're just views. 3. Remember how much you know. Remember that someone can always learn from what you know. When I'm writing a teaching article, I often wonder what authors farther along in their journey would have to say about what I'm writing. But I also have to remember that I know more about this today than someone else does, and I should help those people today rather than waiting until I know more tomorrow. We'll never know all there is to know in the world. We have to share what we know right now and then keep learning. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the different voices writers can hear on any given day. Be sure to visit thiswriterlife.com to access my resource library and for more tips on writing and publishing within the context of being a parent. If you have any questions about the craft of writing, creativity, or publishing, leave them in the comments. For more On My Shelf, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.